believe it or not, the first time I went up and did a stage set was the other day. I did an open mic, and I was pretty proud of myself because I finally, after a couple years, I kind of used the podcast as a bit of a, I want to say, crutch for the situation where I would say, oh, I don't need to go and do this now because I started doing the podcast, blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, now that I have a bar right next to my house that I can get away with and do stand up on or at, I have every intention on doing it again and hopefully maybe getting some more bits written. And, you know, I'm gonna keep working on my writing. I'm gonna keep working on my content. I'm gonna keep working on this thing we call the YoungBlood Podcast, everybody, because the YoungBlood Podcast is still young and always will be young. It's gonna be growing. It's gonna be around for a long time. I may have taken a little hiatus for a while, but all those other YoungBlood podcasts out there, they're not Casey motherfucking Young. There's something else. So I'll tell you what. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this journey. Again, most of what I've put together in this last, what have I been going for 33 minutes? What I've mostly been put together in this last 30 minutes of recording, was probably only about 15 minutes of chatter. And you know, 15 minutes of chatter really isn't a whole lot, when you're trying to do what I'm doing here. 15 minutes of chatter is not nearly the kind of stuff. So, on my next lonely single solo podcast, a word of advice to myself, is do not do a solo podcast unscripted. I don't think I need to make sure that anytime I try to tackle the solo podcast idea, I need to make sure to do it scripted. This was very good what I did here today. I really like the lighting. I'm going to really see what the lighting looks like in Adobe after everything. That's my main concern is I want all this lighting to line up. I want this lighting to look right. I want this to be something that's more enjoyable to the eyes for you and more enjoyable to the ears for me and for you. Mainly because at this point I have finally upgraded to a so-called so forth broadcast microphone, and it is time that I learn how to use it. So, you know, as much as I love experimenting as my guests get here and using them as guinea pigs, it's something that I need to be better about, and I need to put the grind time in before they get here and really make sure that my sound checks and my all around quality of my video and my angles and how I want to film are kind of figured out already, because there is a lot to it. There's a lot going on. And I'll tell you what, I am by no means any professional on making a podcast, but what I do have is my story of how I started this one. And I don't find this to be successful in any way, shape, or form, but I have found my experiences that I've had on the show to be a success. And you all deserve better. I am trying my best to get this completely dialed in, figured out, and stomped into the ground on a matter of perfection, because this podcast to me means the world. And the fact that it's grown from where it was to where it is now, it really means the world to me, man. Like, I can't even explain enough to all two of you who might be out there listening right now. Nobody, because I'm in my basement talking to myself, testing my cameras, but that's okay, because I'll tell you what, this needed to happen. I am beyond ecstatic with actually how the lighting changes have turned out and made this look, because I'll tell you what, maybe I'll take some of this footage and compare it to some of my older footage, and, you know, show the people of YouTube kind of how far I might have came on just a couple little changes that I've made to my cameras, a couple little changes I've made to my studio. Paying a little more attention, obviously, to my recording capabilities and my audio. But, you know, so maybe what I'll do with this footage is I will take a couple side-by-side comparisons and see what viewers think of my progress. And if it isn't enough for anybody to watch, it's enough for me to learn. It is enough for me to get some practice on the equipment. And honestly, it's been so freaking fun getting good at it, in a sense. I'm not good at it by any means, but like getting good at it and getting comfortable is a better word to say with some of this editing stuff that I've always been reluctant to tackle, especially I have always felt like the audio portion of this show and the level of which that I take things has really been tough already, you know, like it's been hard for me to get to the point that I'm at, you know, and that's just where I am now. And it's not like I'm bragging, but I mean, if there's anybody out there that I can help and who wants to know, you know, I'm always open to FaceTime, Skypes, or anything, you know, reach out to me on YouTube. There's tons of other people out there that are better than me and, you know better than me and have more knowledge on the situation. But at this point, I'm just trying to grow my own knowledge, and the best way to learn is to teach. So they say. Best way to learn is to teach. So anyway, those of you who have been a part of the YoungBlood podcast, and if you haven't been a part of the YoungBlood podcast, this is a show that I started 3 years ago over COVID, and it just was really something I wanted to do to get myself into broadcasting, to get myself into the community, to give back to the community the best way that I know how, and that was to talk, and I'm a very talkative person. And so the podcast originally started because I couldn't do any stand-up comedy. And because of the fact that I couldn't do any stand-up comedy, it was something that really resonated with me and almost scared me. And when I'm panicking, I perform. And so at that time, I had just broken my back and I decided it was time to perform. I got a microphone from a friend. I tried for weeks to figure out how to even get into my computer, the audio, and I didn't know anything about what a audio inverter was and what it would do and how it converts the XLR microphone and acts as an amplifier into a USB into your computer. No idea of any of that. And I just experimented, man. I talked it to a mic, posted it on YouTube, and I got to a point where I knew that I was tired of hearing myself talk, and nobody would want to talk to me. Nobody would want to listen to me just talking, man. So my idea at that point was I'm just going to talk to all the people that I know. And at this time, I knew a lot of people in the bar industry, and I knew a lot of people in the area of downtown Boise. And, you know, that's obviously, for those of you who've been there, a very drinkers, bar heavy area. You know, it's a craft bar area where everybody likes to do their super fancy cocktails and also there's a couple nightclubs, but it's all college kids, you know, it's nothing like a bigger city. It's its own vibe. Anyways, but because I knew all those people down there, the show kind of turned into a service industry based podcast in a sense, where I interviewed my friends who were bar managers and bartenders, and I went from interviewing bartenders and bar managers to interviewing a few DJs and interviewing a few phone call friends over states, and one episode turned into two turned into 10 into 50 somehow. So that's where we're at, guys. We're on the second season. We're coming up on episode 43. If you haven't noticed, I've been posting a lot of reruns and whatnot. And that's not just to keep the views up there. That's not just to keep me relevant or anything like that. That's mainly because what I'm trying to do is get my audio quality that I have posted in the past up to date and mixed properly and just sounding overall better. And in the process of doing that, I've taken the older videos that I did do that I didn't really know what I was experimenting with at the time, and I did the best with what I have now to make them better. I edited them the best I know how, and I gave them a nice little makeover the best I can. And so work with me on these a little bit. If they're not the best videos, if it's not the best shorts, if they're not the best content, you know, YoungBlood Podcast is young and growing, and thanks to these fine supporters and followers of mine, it's growing even further. So there's more content on the way. There's more stuff coming out. I'm going to have a ton of footage to go through after me sitting here rambling into the mic for 45 minutes. I really genuinely hope I got some good stuff because YoungBlood Podcast, you guys, is really coming in strong. It's getting better. It's my editing, my content creation, and all of this stuff I'm doing for just you is getting there, y'all. So thank you again for being a part of the show, being a part of this growth, being a part of me, and being a part of YoungBlood Podcast. Again, if you have not checked it out on Instagram, it's yb.podcast. If you haven't checked it out on Patreon, it's patreon.com/yb.podcast. And every other platform, if you can't find it, try searching it with no spaces in between. YoungBlood Podcast, all one word. It really makes it 10 times easier to find me. And, at this point, most of you know me personally, so if you can't find the show, just text me. I'll send you links. Again, this has been a 35-minute ramble, 40-minute... Actually, shit, this has been a 30-minute ramble from your boy. And after I cut everything and get the footage that I want, it's probably going to be about 10 minutes. So whether or not I post it, we'll find out. But I'm going to get some good footage out of it, and I'm going to edit the shit out of it, and I'm going to practice. I'm going to check my audio levels. I'm going to check how this microphone sounds in the computer here. And obviously it's going to sound over good in that computer there. And we're going to also compare the two audios and see how they both sound. This one being USB, that one being XLR. That's also something that, I'm playing around with, you guys. I've never played with the USB microphones. I've always been a strictly XLR only person. And that's not for any other reason other than the fact that I personally did not know what the fuck I was doing when I first started doing this. So I really thought that the USB microphones were just dog shit. And I'm not wrong, but I'm also not right. Like, you can really get some good USB mics out there with some awesome quality content for yourself or for your music or for your podcast or whatever you use your microphones for, whether it be making fucking audiobooks or making sound effects, but I am by no means an expert. I'm just a guy who talks into a microphone and brings his friend into it. So thanks so much for being a part of this, guys, and good night. It's an awesome fucking Friday. Right on.